only have so many hours in a day. You only have so much mental capacity. They talk about like the mental load of the household. I do not carry the mental load of the household. Like that is on my husband, and he does so well. And like, I think I could do it well too, but I couldn't do it well and do all the things that I currently do.
Welcome back to At Face Value, honest conversations with women who are building things in their own unique way. It is not anti-growth, but it is probably anti-default. I'm your host, Ria Cartwright. Today's guest is Dr. Samantha Ellis, board-certified dermatologist and founder of skincare brand Prequel, which is arguably one of the biggest success stories on the internet. Today's conversation is about knowing what to hold on to and what to let go of. It's about building a brand on trust you already earned and what enough looks like when a business is growing this fast. So let's get into it. You're currently in London for the Prequel launch. How are you finding things being here? When did you get here? How long are you here for?
Yeah, it's been amazing so far. I got in last night, and this is actually my first time ever visiting the UK. So,
God.
yeah, so this is like very exciting. And I don't know if I don't believe in jet lag or whatever, but I was able to sleep really well last night. So I feel like we're off on a good foot for today.
So I can't believe you got in last night, and we are recording this just for context at 10:30 in the morning. That is
I know. Well,
super.
I saw that on the schedule and I thought, okay, I think I can make that work.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am okay. Literally, I owe everybody like a bunch of flowers and or a drink. Tell all of us why you are here.
So I am here because we are launching my skincare brand Prequel in Space NK, and this is our first international foray with the brand. And so we're coming out here to spread awareness and do some education because the launch is happening tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. Yes, we have the dinner tomorrow, which I'm very, very, very excited for. I feel like Prequel has been one of the most hotly anticipated brands in such a long time, especially in skincare, right? There's been like color brands that we've been like itching to get over here, but I feel like you can't go anywhere without like on TikTok or Insta, been like, when is Prequel coming? And I remember like the first thing I saw about it in terms of it coming into the UK was like a post at a bus stop, and I was like, oh, it's coming. Like, it's really, really coming.
Yes.
Let's go back to the beginning. You are a board certified dermatologist.
I am.
So you are looking and helping people with skin all the time. And it is a super overwhelming world. At what point were you like, okay, we need to, I want to have a brand. And what was the brand set out to build?
hmm So I think my dermatology practice, I really separate it into like pre-social media and post-social media because how people think about skincare, how they conceptualize thinking about their skin really changed once people started getting some, I'd say, semblance of education online about how to take care of their skin because there was this idea of like, oh, I need to be cleansing and exfoliating and doing all of these things, but there wasn't a lot of good and helpful information around it, or there was just so many mixed messages that people felt like, oh, I realize this is something I need to be doing, but I don't really know how to do it. And prior to social media sort of being a big part of my life and just sort of in the zeitgeist, I recognized in my patients that they were kind of uninspired by skincare, especially for patients who have dealt with eczema, psoriasis, these sort of rosacea. They've been told from a young age like that they need to be using this like handful of sort of like drugstore moisturizers and cleansers. And they're like, I don't want to use that anymore. I've tried that. It doesn't work for me. I'm not interested in that. It doesn't inspire me to actually put it on every day, which is so important when it comes to skincare, is being really consistent with whatever you're doing. And so for me, that sort of planted this seed of like, okay, I have this patient group that wants something new and innovative, but also needs to be clinically effective, of course. And then I also have this cohort of social media people who need a little bit more education around skincare and need products that are actually going to help them fulfill what they're trying to achieve, which is healthier, better appearing skin. And so once I had those two parts sort of like speaking to me, I was like, I gotta fill this white space up a little bit. Let me see what I can do here with my expertise.
I guess it's interesting as well, you're talking about social media, because I was reading an article, or maybe even a podcast that you'd been on, and it was talking about the role of social media in your career.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for so many people and so many brands, especially during that kind of COVID lockdown bananas time,
Yeah.
it became this like springboard pre pre-lockdown, had you ever thought about social media as a tool for your business? Because I feel like, let's say when you were at college
Yeah,
or,
right.
or at uni, I don't,
Okay.
when
Yeah.
I have my US guests, I'm like, so when
We're
you
going
were at
okay, so
college, and
20
I'm
years
like,
ago. Yeah.
yeah, like when you were at uni, like, and you were like, okay, this is what I'm going to study, and I don't know how long the course is in America, but I think it's about like 7 to 10 years over here. Like it's so long.
Yeah,
Social media wasn't a thing.
not at
Could you
all.
have imagined or envisioned then that social media w- would become such a big part of your life, the brand, and how you see clients?
Truly never. And I think that anyone who anticipated social media being what it is sort of a genius, because I think what it really allows you to sort of democratize whatever you're putting out there, the same way that other creators that are in fashion or they're singers or performers, they're able to get their work out there quickly and to a mass audience without having to go through the traditional channels of like working your way up the
Yeah,
totem pole. And so I could never have envisioned that that would be part of it. And I really only started social media because I was in lockdown and my clinic
yeah.
had to close. And I thought, okay, well, I've been doing clinic so much and this has been taking up all my time. I now have this like forced pause in my life. It's sort of now or never. And that's how I just started to dip my toe in the social
Dip your
media
toe, and now
ponds.
you've
And
got
then
like,
apparently that was more like a plunge into the deep end.
yeah, exactly. Was there any, I know a lot of people and a lot of women in particular kind of struggle with visibility and being online. Obviously, now you've kind of got like a million or so followers across different platforms. Did you have any initial resistance to it when you first started? And even now, when you show up, are you like, okay, I'm ready to film? Or sometimes you like, God, like it's a lot of eyeballs.
It is tricky because there's this part of me that is so casual and not really easily embarrassed. Like I am the friend that people come to when they're like, I got an itch somewhere that I don't really want to talk to anyone about, or can I show you this rash? And I'm the friend people come to because I'm not embarrassed about a lot of things. And so then in turn, they don't have to feel so embarrassed or ashamed about things. And so part of me, like I just show up on my stories, no makeup, bad lighting. And I'm like, this is who I am. But as I have grown, and as I have reached people a little beyond my like bubble, that's where it starts getting more intimidating because you have people who don't really know you as a person starting to come in and do commenting and, the average troll or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I try to not pay that much mind because I'm like, you obviously are new here.
Yeah.
But but at the same time, yes, you think about it. And I also, because I am a physician, I think a lot of what I say carries more weight and there is an expectation and a value that I hold myself to, that every piece of educational content that I put out there has to be vetted. It has to be true. It has to be up to date. It can't just be sort of sensationalized. And I think as you start to grow on social media, people start to think, oh, I have to give more out there pieces of advice. I have to do things that are a little more on the cusp
Yeah,
to get
yeah, yeah.
views. But as a physician, you really have to lock into like what is true, what is factual. And
Yeah,
sometimes that
fact.
it doesn't mean you grow as fast sometimes, but it means that you can be a reliable source of information for your followers. And that has to sort of sit above everything else when you're on the platform.
What was the reaction like from your following, from your community? I hate my following, from your community when you
Yeah.
first said like, I'm working on a brand. I guess it's kind of amazing and that you've almost got this like built-in like testing community,
Right.
but
Totally.
how was that? Was there a lot of demand from them before you would launch a brand, being like, Sam, we need you to have a brand, like, create the thing that we need to give us
Yeah.
that kind of efficient skincare that's also inspiring in a way?
I wish I could say there were people like make a brand, do this. There were people approaching me from not really a following or my community, but just sort of out in the skincare production that were kind of coming to me and being like, you should think about a brand. But I don't think my community was directly saying it to me. It was more inferred by the questions they were asking,
Yes. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
comments they were saying about other products that I would talk about. Like, I like this, but this, or this is interesting to me. However, I would like it this way. And when you start to put all of that feedback together, that's sort of how Prequel was sort of beginning to be built. And then when we did launch it, there was just this overwhelm of support, which was really exciting. And people were really enthusiastic about the brand, not only because I feel like it takes your everyday basics and kind of elevates them, but also the approachability of the brand and the fact that everything is so affordable was refreshing, I think, to a big part
Yeah.
of my
Yeah. Yeah.
community because when I was initially getting approached to maybe do a brand or things like that, there were a lot of people that are like, you can make this a really expensive brand. You can have a $200 serum. You're a dermatologist. You have a following. You can charge whatever you want and people will buy it. And to me, as a physician, physician first, right? Like my goal with Prequel is really to democratize skincare and allow more people to take better care of their skin. And a huge part of that is not only creating inspiring, effective products, but ones that are within people's budgetary constraints.
Yeah.
And so that has been, I think, one of the best parts is just seeing that so many people can use Prequel in their lives and continue to use it.
Literally, my brain was like bubbling with questions as you were saying that last bit. I have three questions just off a riff of that. Number
Bring
one
them on.
is, so you mentioned that kind of people were approaching you, you're like, oh, you just start a brand. Again, going back to when you first started or when you were in clinic, had you ever thought, I can see like a brand in my horizon? Like, some people like, I'd always dreamed of having a brand. Did you always dream of having a brand? Or was it actually a thing of, you know what, like the opportunity presented itself and it
Mhm.
makes sense?
I always thought it would be interesting to have a brand, but I'm very much a believer of like, don't just do something because you can. Like, you really need to have a goal and a purpose behind whatever drives you. Otherwise, it's just sort of like an idea and you don't have that same sort of passion to pursue it to
Yeah.
excellence. And so I always thought a brand would be interesting, but I really only wanted to do it if I felt like I could do it right and that it would really truly not just contribute to the noise of skincare, because obviously there's so much amazing skincare already out there. I built my platform talking about other skincare and I
Yeah.
still talk about other skincare. Just because I love my brand, it doesn't mean I also
Which can I
don't
say,
love and support
I
other
love
brands.
that, by the way. I love
Thank you.
that even though you do have your own brand, you're still so like abundant with your talking of other brands. I think it's
Yeah.
such a good look, basically. Like it's
Thank
so
you.
nice. It's so nice to see other founders continue to support other brands.
Yeah, I think of it like I'm a chef, but I can still enjoy eating at other restaurants and
Yeah.
still recognize that there are things that I don't do that other people do really well, or that we both can do well, and that's okay. We can grow side by side. I think a lot of this feels, especially, I hate to say this, but as like women led businesses or women founders, there's a lot of people from the outside that want to like pit us against each other. But I also think from the inside, we've been taught like only one person can rise to the top or only one brand can be the best. And I think that's actually what's really cool about skincare is you can have multiple brands thrive together and you can have multiple brands in a routine that brings someone success in what their skin is able to achieve.
Yeah.
And so for me, I love that there's other brands out there because I also get to use them as inspiration.
Literally,
Hmm.
literally. Let's talk about product, which is always my favorite thing about beauty. There are two things. Number one is the people, because we have great people in beauty, and number two is the product,
Yeah,
because I'm in my living room and there's product in every like corner of my home,
that
which
is my home too. My
is it
partner
okay,
is
fine.
like, "What? Can we do something about this?" And I was like, "No,
No. Like
no."
I still don't have like a proper storage situation. And I speak to people all the time. I'm like, so how do you store your stuff? And some people have got entire rooms and cupboards, and like I have all of those things, but there's just still stuff. And
That's
I
the
want to
pro
like
I made,
touch
like
and play all the
well, that's the
time.
thing, I, like, want it to sit on my counter because I wanna reach for it at certain times, and if it's just in,
Yeah,
like, a beauty closet, then it's sort of out of sight, out of mind, and so I really like to
literally.
have everything out at once, basically to everyone else in my household's chagrin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. But to your products and your notion of kind of basics plus, which is these kind of, tried and tested ingredients but are elevated.
Yes.
When you were kind of building out the brand, what were you intending to do with Prequel that you kind of refused to do what other mind the cat that you refused to do what other brands were doing? What were kind of like your brand non-negotiables?
I think I mean, I don't wanna speak to what other brands' sort of strategies are or how they approach skincare, but what I was noticing is a lot of brands would come out with, like, one hero sort of niche product that fit, like, the current trend of skincare, whether it's, like, an exfoliant or a mist or something like that, and maybe build around that sort of hero
Hmm.
product, and I really wanted to think about skincare from a dermatologist standpoint of, like, if I am starting someone on a routine, where do I start? Because how dermatologists think about skincare can be quite different from maybe the average consumer or even the average skincare or beauty brand. And I'm really thinking about like, how do I give someone the fundamentals to succeed? And so for us, it was really about prioritizing the skin barrier, prioritizing how to take care of your skin within your routine. So we launched with a cleanser, a moisturizer, a protective ointment. Like these are
They're
really
absolute
basic.
basics.
Yeah, the true basics, which feels unsexy. But I think once people started trying the products, they're like, oh no, this is exactly what it is basic plus. It's like, how can you make a cleanser that's so innovative and interesting and so effective? And when you're able to do that and then do it at a really affordable price point and give someone a huge bottle of it and say, hey, you can use this on your face and your body, and your kids can use it, and your partner can use it, and they're all going to be excited about it. That felt interesting to me. And I actually have
Yeah.
seen this now resonate with the consumer, which is really also exciting because you always wonder, like, will my vision align with what other people actually want in their routines? And I think just showing them, like, hey, just start here. We can begin with basics has worked really well for Prequel.
It's interesting that you've mentioned that it kind of wasn't sexy because
Hmm.
I have a theory that skincare has actually become too sexy, that
Hmm.
there's almost this kind of like funification of skincare. And in a way, I get it, right? Anything that is a routine or is a ritual or that can feel like, oh, what is happening today, guys? Like,
They're
uh,
so excited about Prequel.
yeah, no, they're your biggest fans. They're like,
Yeah.
when is the cat stuff going to come? You know what's
Right.
funny is that on any other normal day, they wouldn't be doing this. It's as soon as I record, this is what happens. So
They know.
I'll start
They're like,
that
mom's
tradition.
trying to work. No
Yeah, I
thanks.
know. They're like, come on, like entertain us. I'm like, go outside. Like, there's literally a garden you can be out in. Um, I have a theory that their skincare has like in a way there's so many brands out there and so many brands that are fantastic that if people just followed an unsexy routine they would probably have the skin of their dreams. It's like there's so much kind of testing and trialing and newness all the time that like, oh, maybe that's why your barrier is wrecked. It's because you change your cleanser like twice a week, 3 times a week.
Yes. And then you never really figure out what truly works for you. And I understand this, right? You're like bombarded with new things and new and better. And there's people out there that have really aspirational looking skin. And you think, well, if I use that, I will have her skin, even though she's just clearly so genetically blessed.
Blessed, yeah.
Uh, and, I fall victim to that too in some ways. However, I feel like I have the background and the understanding to really know exactly when I can like push it and where to sort of rein it in. And if someone
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
that same background in skincare, they might not. And I agree. Like, I think a lot of skincare is positioned as like what's going to look good on camera, what's going to look interesting in a shot, how it pumps out, how the foam looks, all of that. But really, it should be about like, what does this actually offer to the skin?
Yeah. You mentioned as well your pricing, which I
Mhm.
think is so admirable. I mean, when I first saw the brand, like visuals, like because I look at the brands from obviously product and efficacy, but I also think about that step before is how is that gonna like get the attention of a consumer?
But yeah, you eat
Uh,
with your eyes first, for sure.
Literally, like it has to
Yeah.
have that shelf appeal or that kind of online PDP appeal. And I saw the creative in the packaging, and I was like, "Oh, this looks gorgeous."
Thank
And
you.
then I saw the price and I was like, "Oh, wow. Like this is really affordable." And like you said, like the sizes of some of your products are huge and
Well,
it's
that's what I say,
still
like, you can't even just look at
affordable.
the price, it's like the price per
Yeah,
ounce
price per mil.
almost.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Or yeah,
like,
mil. I gotta
yeah,
I
sorry.
gotta
Yes,
work
I'm
on
like
my
ounce. I'm like,
yeah, what is an ounce?
yes, the price per mil or per ounce.
Yeah.
It's like we would say high street, but it's like
Mhm.
drugstore
Yeah,
pricing.
yeah.
You know, like
We really
it
did wanna
truly
be
is.
not competing, but, like, really in that drugstore pocket.
Yeah, and I think that's such I'm curious in terms of, like, your decision that like you said, with your background, you could have easily had, like, a £200, $200 serum, and nobody would
Yeah.
have, like, blinked an eyelid. When you were thinking about what the pricing strategy would be and not even God, even that feels like so corporate. Forget the pricing strategy for a
Yeah.
second, but I guess the pricing naturally dictates how you show up, how you play.
Yeah.
When you what was your decision to be like, "I want this to be a brand that can reach as many people as possible," because that
Mhm.
feels more like the thread than, "Here is our pricing strategy."
Exactly. I mean, and that is a strategy. You're totally right. And I think for me, it really was like, I want everyone to be able to, or I mean, I shouldn't say everyone, like it still costs some degree of
Yes.
money,
Yes.
but I did want multiple people through all different kind of socioeconomic ranges to be able to buy this. And it's interesting because I've practiced in all sorts of clinic settings. I've practiced, free clinics, clinic for the unhoused, war veterans. Then now I practice in kind of like a high socioeconomic area. And so I've really seen the spectrum. Regardless of how much money someone makes, they don't necessarily want to spend that on skincare. Like if they don't have to, like even my richest patients, if they can buy an $18 cleanser instead of a $200
Yeah.
one, they will. They're smart with their money. Just because you're wealthy doesn't mean you want to spend it on certain things.
My God,
Um,
preach. I say this, oh my God, this is literally like music to my ears. When I was talking to luxury brands or people that work in luxury and they're like, oh, our customer is X, Y, Z. And I'm like, no, she's not. Like,
yeah.
she literally, how do you think wealthy people quite often retain their wealth? Because they're
Yeah, they're
so
not dumb.
smart with their
Yeah.
finances.
Yeah.
And also,
For sure.
everybody, I feel like, regardless of I mean, obviously, if you're from a lower economic background, then that's different. But most people want to find something that's incredible at the most affordable price point for them. I
Yes.
feel like that's a universal
It's so
desire.
universal. It really
Yeah.
is. And then I also think about my patients who don't have that socioeconomic privilege. And I can't imagine telling them as their dermatologist, like, hey, because of your eczema, you need to be cleansing twice a day. You need to be moisturizing after every bath. You need to be moisturizing 2 times a day. And then recommending a moisturizer that is completely unattainable for them in terms of cost. Or I've had patients, in the past who ration their medication because they can't afford it every month. People ration their
Wow.
skincare too. And so
Yeah.
I wanted there to be this thought that they don't have to be precious with their skincare. Like they can go in and pump that moisturizer out and they
Yeah.
can do it twice a day and they can use it liberally as it should be and not have this fear that it's going to run out. Because I definitely have serums that even though I can afford these serums, I don't want it. I don't even almost don't want to use them because I'm like, oh, but then I have to rebuy it. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my own personal issue, I suppose. But I
Even
really want people to be able to use it.
even that actually is interesting, and maybe we'll get to that in the later section about even when you do have the kind of buffer and resource to
Yeah.
repurchase something, the kind of mindset of, oh, I should maybe save it for best, or I can't
Yeah.
use it all on like a random Tuesday because I'm just going to be at home rather than a Saturday night when you're going out with like your girlfriends. I,
Totally.
I feel like that's another kettle of fish. But I want to talk about you as founder.
Hmm.
I feel like the kind of merits of a fantastic founder are really understanding what to do themselves and what to delegate, what to give up. But
Yes.
could obviously also be a really hard thing to do. Like
Yeah.
delegation and recognizing like where you need support, I think is the hardest part of running a business, or even if you don't run a business, I feel like just running a household, looking after
Yeah.
yourself.
Right.
What are the things that are these are the things that are mine that I do that I'm in full control of? And what were the things that you were like, you know what? I'm kind of okay giving this to somebody else.
Fair. I do think one of my strengths is not having an ego about my skill set and really understanding like these are the things I do well and these are the things that like I could do, but I also know people can do them better. And like I'm such a believer of like don't be the smartest person in the room. There's always going to be people that can do certain aspects better than you can, and I'm not delusional about that. So for me, where my like sweet spot is in product innovation because I'm really like boots on the ground in clinic understanding what people want, where their pain points are with their products, what prevents them from repurchasing, what prevents them from buying in the first place, how do they incorporate it if they are on prescription medications or topicals as well. So product innovation, I feel like I own that. And of course, I have an amazing chemist team and a marketing team that helps sort of inform some of the decisions that we make. But I think innovation for sure. And then product education. That is what I
Yes.
do.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I have a YouTube channel where I talk obviously about my brand, but also just more broadly about how to take care of your skin in general. And then people can apply those concepts to whatever skincare they're using, but also hopefully to some Prequel products as well.
100%. It's
Yeah.
interesting in terms of the thing about ego, and kind of relinquishing that and being like, I'm not going to be the best at everything, like, and that's just how it is. Also, you can't be the best at everything.
You can't. And I
But
think specialization, I'm a dermatologist. I've always knew I wanted to specialize, like know one thing so well, forward and backward. Like, and I think there's some people who have a lot of comfort in knowing a little bit about a lot. And I find more comfort in knowing a ton about one thing and then
yes,
having this like group of other people that I trust. And, it takes time to build that trust. It's not like, oh, I'm immediately delegating that to you. It's like, let's have a conversation. We're talking about how would you approach this? How do you deal with these X, Y, and Z barriers? What have you done in the past to show me that like you can find success in this role? Because when you delegate, you have to delegate smartly. And for people who delegate and it goes wrong, it's a mess. It doubles your work, it
yeah,
quadruples your work,
yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
And so delegating appropriately, I think, is also a strength.
100%. How did you kind of uh build that strength? I always talk about skill sets as like a muscle. Like you
Mhm.
have to kind of build it and do the reps. I guess there's kind of one side of you that's obviously built a dermatology practice, which I'm sure comes with this complete and utter own skill set. But when you then kind of transfer some of those skills, obviously, to building out a skincare brand, what has been so far the kind of not lesson, but what's been like the most kind of challenging thing that you've had to kind of come across going from purely dermatologist to,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm a brand founder?
Right. I think the biggest thing is figuring out what you don't know. It's sort of like you don't know what you don't know. And so, really understanding where your blind spots are is the first thing. You don't have to understand how to go in deep with those blind spots, but just to know that they exist so that you can have them addressed, hopefully from the beginning. And so, for me, it was talking to a lot of people who either had brands, who were thinking about brands that had already had success with their brand to figure out where my blind spots were or where from the beginning could I implement something that would allow us to grow quickly, which we have, and grow successfully with as few bumps in the road as possible. And there's always going to be obstacles that are unforeseen, but I think the reason I think Prequel has been so successful, or one of the reasons, is we've been able to have a fairly smooth trajectory. And I think that's just because we like massaged out the problems in the beginning instead of encountering, fixing
Yeah,
along
yeah,
the
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting, right? It's like you said, kind of surrounding yourself with people that have done it and asking them questions.
Yes.
I often say, like, there's nothing more flattering sometimes for somebody else's ego than saying, like, hey, can I have some of your help? Because then it's like,
Yes.
oh, you want my help? And I think,
Yeah.
like you said to your earlier point, there can be a lot of kind of like putting founders, especially female founders, against each other. But actually, if you just ask for help or some
Yes.
advice, they're often like, yeah, sure, here's what I would have done, 5 years ago if I was starting out then. And it's like
Absolutely.
that is invaluable, I think, for building and to have those expanders around you that have done it before. Were there any founders in particular that you either spoke to or that like you admire from a distance in terms of kind of what they've built and how they're building?
I always really admired, Mariana Hewitt from Summer
Yeah.
Fridays.
Yeah.
Her and I crossed paths kind of early on, and then I was actually an advisor for like the dermatology advisor for the brand,
Wow, I
which
didn't
was
know that.
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, which was cool, and it actually was the first time I was thinking, "Oh, like I could do this too." I mean, she's so aspirational in so many aspects of her life, but I think also showing that it was possible, and she's always been so forthcoming with information and strategy and all of that.
Yeah.
And to your point, like helping each other, I think mentorship is such a huge part of what I like to offer to early career dermatologists. And I get so much fulfillment out of it. And I think a lot of women love to be able to give back if you give them the opportunity to do it.
100%, 100%. Let's talk about your Space NK arrival, which I think that pretty much everybody in skincare is very looking forward to. I think it's really interesting when a brand, especially a US brand, comes to the UK because our retailer environment is so different.
Mhm.
Like obviously you guys, bigger territory, have so many more kind of opportunities and different types of stores than we have.
Right.
Obviously you have an exclusive partnership with Space NK.
Yes.
What was kind of your choice with Space NK? I mean, like I said, you've never been to London before, so I
Right.
guess and actually from the time when you arrived, presumably, yeah, in I don't know,
We're
12
less than
hours.
24 hours
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You've probably not been to a Space NK yet, but it's
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a Space NK on every high street, right?
Right.
Like there's what, maybe 70 something doors in the UK. It was my first ever beauty job was in Space NK back
Really?
back when I was at college.
Yeah.
And I guess what's interesting is in the US, the markets that you're in, the stores that you're in are very different to Space NK here.
Right.
How do you think that the brand is going to present itself and be welcomed in a
Mhm.
slightly more kind of premium environment than it
Right.
is at home or in your home?
Totally. Yeah, because, at home we're sort of in not like drugstore, but sort of drugstore adjacent. And here it's more of like a prestige positioning. But to me, what I really liked about Space NK is that they really are sort of like clinically led, very education focused. And when you're trying to build both awareness and credibility for a brand, since this is our first time being international, I wanted a space that would kind of put Prequel on a pedestal and be like, hey, this is the brand, but not just throw it on a shelf somewhere and let the consumer figure it out. Like that there's people in store that are guiding you, that there's
Yeah,
education
yeah, yeah.
around the product. Because I think if people, even though the products are very self explanatory, like everyone knows how to wash their face with a cleanser, but it's more about understanding that this is a special product. This has a clinical foundation, and that really aligns, I think, with a lot of other brands that are carried at Space NK. And they've been just like an amazing partner so far. So I feel really excited that we will be in all
Amazing.
the doors.
Whilst you are here, how long are you here for in
I'm here
London?
for a week.
A week.
Hmm.
What are you kind of most excited outside, obviously, of launching Prequel? What are you most excited to be doing here in London whilst you're here?
I don't know if there's anything else built into my itinerary, to be honest. It's so, it is packed. I think I have a Friday afternoon off, which I think I need to do something with tea because that
Yeah. Where
feels
are you
like,
staying?
we're in Soho.
Okay, fine. Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Nice and
So,
central.
yeah, we're surrounded, like, by a lot of great things, but I think my goal is just to, like, ask everyone around, "If you have any recommendations, let me know."
Yeah,
Uh,
I've got loads.
but I think also just spending time in the Space NK stores, spending time in the spaces around those stores to really understand, like, what
Yeah, yeah,
does the
yeah.
environment here look like? What does the consumer walking in and out of the store look like, to really understand just even more how to make Prequel shine in this sort of new environment. But I think what's been exciting is because we've had so much education online for Prequel sort of from the beginning, there's a lot of familiarity with the brand already. And so just to like kind of help that grow. But while
Right.
I'm
It
in,
is
I think
so
this is a pure work trip.
yeah, it's so weird, right? It almost does feel that like we already know Prequel, even though it's technically, well, I guess by the time this goes live, it will be here.
Yes.
But it's like we almost feel like we know it, even though we don't. Yeah, I mean, I have it; it's in my bathroom,
Yay.
and I can't like your kind of milky, like
The
light
half and half.
moisturizer. Yeah, half and
Yes.
half. I was told it like plus. I was like, no, it's not plus plus. Yeah, I
Yeah.
used that
Yeah.
this morning.
Yeah.
Um, and like I've got the cleanser, the oil cleanser. And I'll be
Mm,
honest, I don't normally love a lot of oil cleansers.
yeah.
Yours is fantastic.
Thank
Like
you.
yours is
Thank you.
really I don't know, it's so nice, even still now after like 15 years, to try a new brand or a new product from a new brand and be like, "Oh, this is really good," like
Thank you.
there's you don't ever it's still so exciting. And I feel like once that
That's how I feel.
excitement goes, it's like that's when I know that it's time for me to like stop doing this,
Hang it up.
Yeah, like I'm done. What I would recommend actually whilst you are here, and I recommend this to everybody that is not from the UK launching a brand, if you do have time but still work related, visit some stores out of London.
Ooh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
I The biggest mistake that I find founders do is they have such a London centric
Yeah.
strategy. To have true commercial success in this country is more than London,
We're going
right?
to Manchester the back half of the week.
Okay, nice,
So
nice.
we'll have
If
like a
like
little bit.
on your way up there or back,
Hmm.
go into like, if you can, like a random little Space NK
Yeah,
somewhere,
I love
just to
that.
see like, because Sam, if it's the fact that it's your first time to the UK, what London will present to you
Right.
versus the rest of this. It's like when
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, America is just like New York and
New
LA,
York. Yeah.
Miami." You're like, "Yeah, there's that bit in the middle." Um,
Totally.
like honestly, yeah, get out of London if you can.
Great.
I know it's not always the easiest, but yeah, that's I
I love that
would
idea. That's
definitely do
great
that.
advice.
I always think that when someone is starting a brand or running a brand or going into a new market, there's so many things, so many plates you're spinning and so many things in your head all the time. For you, like, let's even if I ignore the brand for a second, but for you as like Sam Ellis that started in dermatology, what, 20 something years ago, like I'd imagine a a woman that was at one point a little girl with like huge big dreams. What does success for you look like?
I think what I find success in any aspect of my personal life or professional life, and I think it's one of the huge reasons I became a physician, is just this ability to touch someone's life in a way that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have experienced. And so when I get the DMs that are like, I'm 60-year-old woman, I've never been able to tolerate like a cleanser and a moisturizer. I've never been able to use a retinol successfully, but now that I've incorporated Prequel, my skin is so happy that I've been able to like wear makeup without my skin feeling irritated. Or when I have a patient who says, finally a moisturizer I can use with my eczema that I actually am like excited to put on and doesn't cling to my clothes and my body and make me all sweaty. These little like personal touches in someone's life to me is what makes this brand successful and what makes me feel proud to have it out there. Of course, on a macroscopic level, the growth of it, the repurchase of it so that people are not just buying once, but they want to keep it as part of their routine,
Yeah,
especially when
coming
there is so
back.
much newness, is really to me a more objective marker of a brand success, is that people want to continue to come back to the brand and support it and evangelize it. And
Yeah, yeah.
but on a personal level, success to me is just seeing people enjoy the product so much and to enjoy what it does for their skin, because that is the whole point of the brand.
I love that. I love that. I always think that, as I mentioned at the beginning before we started recording, you can't when you're building a business, you can't separate the like it's so intrinsically a part of you. And I can imagine that being a dermatologist, there's like a discipline that comes to building out a routine for somebody, but also a discipline that you would have had to kind of go through all that studying. And I would imagine like continued studying and
Always.
learning.
Always.
Because I imagine it is endless. Like it's just
It's
not
endless, and
stop.
it's also a field that has so much constant innovation that if you don't continue to learn, you don't wanna become like a dinosaur dermatologist where you don't know what else is going on in your space. And so
Yeah.
this has also opened up a whole other part of dermatology, because so much of dermatology is treating skin disease, but when you go into the skincare aspect, you're also talking about just like overall skin wellness, even for people who have relatively healthy skin. How do they keep it that way? How do they optimize it? And so it has actually broadened my practice in a lot of ways that I feel very lucky to have experienced.
Interesting.
Mhm.
That's cool. And I guess as well, like, with any job, I feel like there's actually a quote, but I can't remember who said it, but like an early sign of not death in terms of like dying, but
Mhm.
like death as
Right.
a person is when you
Yeah.
stop becoming curious, when you
Yes,
stop learning.
absolutely.
So if you can work in a field, obviously like you do, which is there's continued learning, but I feel like, you could have any job in the world, like even the most kind of quote unquote mundane or boring job, there's always, always something to learn and keep growing.
Absolute lifelong learner. I think that is such like no matter what field you're in, there's an
Yeah.
opportunity for that. And if you lose that opportunity, then you need to switch what you're doing so that you can continue to grow. Because I think that's like what makes life so valuable, is like always learning new things, new experiences. It allows you to connect to people in ways that you might not have been able to before. So I think it affords you.
On that then, what are some kind of some non-work things that you're kind of like learning? Like, are you, I don't know, maybe you're like learning, are you learning Arabic or like, are there any kind of like
Oh, I
skill,
wish I.
you never give it, next time I see you, you'll be like fluent.
Yeah, you just wait.
But are there kind of like things outside of work that are kind of keeping your mind curious and occupied right now?
I think there's so many different things. I love yoga. I'm like a big yoga person. And so like I always think about like growing within that practice. And I think that also just helps me stay grounded in a lot of other ways and calm when the world around you is not
Yes.
particularly calm. But I also have a 4.5-year-old son. And I think that has really opened my horizons, because I actually did not grow up thinking I would like be a mother, or that wasn't like, it wasn't on my bucket list. I'll just say
Yeah.
that. But obviously we did it on purpose, but I feel like it wasn't something I thought would bring me the fulfillment and interest that it does. And so just thinking about like raising a young boy and like all of these things that I want to show him and to do well. And there's things I loved about how I was raised that I want to continue. And there's things that I would change that I want to impart upon him. So that also to
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
especially because I am so busy with work, when I do have free time to be able to spend time with him and my husband and just kind of like grow that aspect of my personhood.
It's interesting. Something I'm really kind of big on is this like a sort of notion of the people that you admire or look up to. They're not like magical human beings. They just have a support system in place. I think that sometimes we idolize, you know, whether it's celebrities or business founders, and we're like, wow, like they're so amazing. They've got
I
like
do
three
everything.
kids and a business. And I'm like, yeah, they're no different to you. They just have support in place that allows them to do what they need to do. What are your kind of your non-negotiable support systems? And it could be, you know, putting things on your calendar or like having like support around the house, a cleaner, a housekeeper. But what for you are the things that are absolute non-negotiable to keep you as like as optimum as possible across
Right.
like life and business?
Totally, because I always think, like, the things I wanna be doing in my free time are, like, being with my family and friends, I'm working, I wanna have time to exercise, and so delegating and this is hard for me to do because I did not grow up with money of any kind, so I never had, like, someone to help me clean the
Yes,
house
speak
or
on this. Yes, I struggled so badly when I first got my cleaner because I was like,
I was like, "Why would I pay someone something that I can do?" Yes,
so
totally.
yes, tell us
And
more,
I
please.
feel and you feel guilty about it because I know not everyone can afford to bring that into their life, and so I was, like, even embarrassed for a long time to tell someone that I have someone that, like, helps clean the house,
Yes.
or, now my husband is a stay-at-home dad, and so he can help so much and take on a lot of the, like, house tasks, like, I don't cook, I don't go to the grocery store, like, those are just things that I could do, and I did in a previous iteration of myself, but if I really am honest with, like, how I wanna spend the free time that I have, those aren't necessarily things that I want to do. So having, a clean space is so important. So like you said, having like a house cleaner come every couple of weeks to just like honestly to me it actually forces me to put things away. Like you said, we have beauty stuff everywhere. It like
Yeah.
makes me I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take the bottles here and put them here so that this can
Yeah.
get clean.
Yes,
um
literally.
but I think that is a non-negotiable for me. Having time to exercise is huge. I just think like I when you take care of yourself, you can take care of other people much more
Mm.
successfully. So that is something for me that I do a lot. And then I also have I get driven a lot of places instead of driving because it
You're kind of
helps like
working
that's like a,
on the
yeah,
go.
like I it's a good time to be working for me so that when I do
Yeah.
get home I don't have to do it. And I don't love to be on my phone because so much of my work happens on my phone because of social media in front of my son. And so as
Yes.
much as I can like put that away, I'm not perfect.
I first of all, thank you for sharing that. I feel like there can be such a resistance to especially a woman saying publicly, yeah, I don't cook, I don't shop for groceries, you know, because it's almost like, oh, but you should, like you're a woman. Whereas
Yeah,
I feel like if you were a guy and the guy was like, yeah, I don't cook, then people would be like, of course he doesn't
obviously.
cook, you know. But
Yeah.
like with women,
Why
it's like,
would you?
oh yeah, like what do you mean you don't cook?
Yeah.
And I truly believe that again, to kind of quote unquote have it all requires you to understand that like you need to create space. And sometimes that creating and also, you know what, even if you don't want to do anything, just
Right.
being able to look after yourself better
Yeah.
absolutely sometimes requires you to outsource things and
And it
that's
really took
okay.
me hearing other women in successful positions saying that they do that for me to feel okay with it. Like, even though I was like kind of doing it, I felt really hung up about it and guilty. And also just like, I don't know, I didn't want to give other people the ick about how I live my life.
Yeah.
But so hearing more people be like, that's the only way that it's really possible. Like, you only have so many hours in a day, you only have so much mental capacity. And so I don't have, like, they talk about like the mental load of the household. I do not carry the mental load of the household. Like, that is on my husband.
Yeah.
And he does so well. And like, I think I could do it well too, but I couldn't do it well and do all the things that I currently do.
Yeah.
And so for
Yeah.
us to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
like very clear, like, this is what you do, this is what I do, these are the things we do together, that has been incredibly helpful.
I think that's so refreshing and just beautiful to hear. As we mentioned at the beginning, at face value is really all about women are building things differently across business and life. We mentioned obviously earlier what your kind of success looks like. What for you is your definition of enough? If I said like, oh, like when do you feel enough? What is enough? What for you is like, okay, this is enough now.
That's hard because I'm like a little bit more of like a more is more. Like my life motto is there's always room for dessert, right? Like no matter how satisfying a meal was and how fulfilled you are from it, I could always go for some dessert. And so for me, for enough, I think for my brand is going to be really hard to define because we're in such a big growth phase right now.
Yeah.
Like until prequels, like in every country, I probably won't feel like it's enough because the whole goal of the brand is that everyone can take care of their skin
Yeah.
well and use these products successfully in their routine and be excited about taking great care of their skin. On a personal level, to me, enough is when I feel like I can 100% check out for a weekend and like just go somewhere and not have my phone and not be on call or to be tapped because I'm a physician, I'm also always on call for all of my patients. So
Yeah, of
that is something that
course.
is like, oh, no matter where I am, I'm like, well, I could get a call about the patient who I operated on Friday. And there's not a ton of dermatology emergencies, but when you do surgery, that can happen. People get rashes, people have emergency things. And so that also would be nice to sort of be able to separate that a little bit.
When was the last time you were able to kind of have like 48 hours and do that? Or just never?
uh,
Okay, fine.
I literally can't think
Wow,
of,
okay,
of when
fine.
that was. But that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy my life now. And like, even though I am on call, like I still go on vacation. I have a wonderful business partner at my practice who co-owns my dermatology practice. We will like take call for each other on certain
Okay,
things so that
nice.
we're not always like we can go on vacation. But there's always little things that like only I am going to be able to handle, or this is like only a fire that I feel like I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
put
yeah.
out fully. And I own that, and I'm okay with that, like, I understand that, but I think success in some long sense of the word would be to be able to completely turn my brain off
Yeah. Oh,
100%.
yes. To remove the cognitive load for a couple of
Yes,
days would be joy.
it would be amazing.
My last question for you is what is the most valuable thing that you have learned along your journey thus far? Again, it could be in life, it could be in business, but what is the most valuable thing?
I think the most valuable thing is to continue to surround yourself with good people, whether that's in business, people who are innovative, interesting, attentive, driven. But in personal life too, like what brings my life so much fulfillment is like the family and friends that I have and the time that I get to spend with them as well. And so I think when you are a founder and you work so hard, no matter what, even if you're not a founder, if you just work hard in your work life, it's very common to neglect the relationships that you have sometimes with people you work with and certainly with people that you don't work with, even maybe your spouse. And so to me, the number one thing is to like value all the relationships in your life and make sure you're pouring into those because they will that that's unmatched in terms of what value that can bring back into your life.
I think that is a fantastic answer and a great way to end the episode. Dr. Sam Ellis, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
And we'll hopefully see you very soon.
I love that. See you soon.
Thank you. So that was Dr. Sam Ellis of Prequel. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation and hats off to a woman that has literally just come off a plane less than 24 hours ago. The fact that it's her first time in London and I'm her first UK podcast feels so exciting. What stayed with me in our chat was talking about enoughness, seeing this woman have an incredible dermatology practice and then become a brand founder and all of the things that come with that. And also looking at what support looks like as you go through different seasons in your life. Prequel is an amazing skincare brand at truly affordable prices and is now in Space NK exclusively. If today's episode resonated, please follow, please share, please like, send a comment. You know where to find us. And I will see you on the next episode.